So thank you for joining us on this week's episode of Change One Thing. We are talking about small changes that you can make to improve instruction in higher education. I am Diana Theisinger. I am a program manager for digital and professional learning here at the Studio for Teaching and Learning Innovation at William & Mary. And today, our guest on Change One Thing is
Enrique Valdes. I am a visiting assistant teaching professor at the Department of Economics here at William & Mary.
Enrique. How long have you been teaching?
Teaching since 2012 was the first class I taught, spring or fall of 2012.
And how many institutions?
3 institutions.
And you are joining us today to talk about a strategy that's been effective in your classrooms using index cards. We need to think of like a snazzy name for it, but for now, just tell us, what are you doing with these index cards?
So, basically a couple of years ago, I was introduced to this index card. So it's maybe the poor man's eye clicker. So basically what I do is I give students different color index cards, 4 different colors. And basically each color is going to correspond to an answer on the board when I ask a question, right? So, I like the method because I can see, if students are understanding the material, and it gives me an opportunity to basically try to make the class more engaging, throughout the time period.
Okay, so give me an example. What's a type of question that might be well suited to using index cards for responding?
Yeah, so basically any multiple choice question would be well suited, or any yes or no question, pretty easy to implement. At this point now, I've been using this for a while, and it's kind of evolved to where when I open up the class, I have a multiple choice question, and I have students vote on it. And, hopefully they all get the right answer. If they don't, this gives me an opportunity to kind of, go over this topic again. And if there's variation, right, if there's, answers all over the place, it's a good thing actually, because then, I could tell students, hey, turn to your neighbor, right, and, convince them that your answer is right, right? And then they talk for, maybe a minute or two, and then I have them vote again, right?
Okay.
And I see, hey, let me see if you were able to convince your neighbor. Let's see if we all got the right answer. For the most part, they usually end up at the right answer. But,
Okay, I was going to ask, do they generally, does the correct answer prevail in those debate your neighbor scenarios?
Usually, and if it doesn't, well, then we just go over it again and say, okay, well, look, this is why this answer is incorrect. Maybe the problem is with the question, right? So that gives me some insight also. But yeah, it allows me to see, what students are thinking. Maybe the question wasn't well asked, right, or wasn't well articulated. So then, kind of give me an opportunity to say, okay, yeah, you're right. Maybe this isn't right, or if we were thinking about it, maybe in this way, this answer would be correct, right? So it allows you to basically talk more and be more engaged with the students.
Is there anything that, if an instructor is interested in trying this, is there anything they should be aware of where, it can really go off the rails if you do this thing?
Yes. What I noticed was, when you first do this, you ask the question, and then, students you say, okay, let's vote, and then students won't vote, and they'll look around just to see what everybody else is doing, and then they'll just join the party. So one way I try to think, or to, not let that happen, I'll just say, okay, we're going to vote. Ready? 1, 2, all right, vote. So everybody kind of votes simultaneously, and, we don't have people, that basically aren't participating or aren't thinking about the question. So that's one of the things. Besides that, it's not really anything else that's going to go off the rails. There are some limitations, right? There are some things that, again, some student might get the wrong answer, right? They might be the only one with the wrong answer. So that, nobody likes that part.
So what are some things you say to that student who, might be in danger of feeling like, oh, I'm the only one who didn't know this? Do you have a kind of a canned response?
I just say, I don't really address it. I don't want to, hey, so you got it wrong, buddy. I don't want to do that. I just say, okay, looks like most people got the correct answer, right? This is it. This is why this is correct, and in it, I could always say, if there was one answer that somebody else picked, look, this is not correct because X, Y, Z, right?
Okay, so you're also using it as an opportunity to review the why of the correct answer.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
And to make any in the moment corrections for people who might have not understood.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you could always say something like, okay, hey, this would have been the right answer if maybe X, Y, Z was going on, right? If our assumptions were different, then this would be correct. But, this is the best answer. Yeah, so I try to have, for my multiple choice questions, choose the best answer, right? I mean, so
Oh, yeah.
more than one could be right, but the best one would be, this one here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And when you put the question up for the class, are you showing them the answers right away, or are you kind of revealing the answer choices later? How do you manage that?
So I like to, show the question first and not show them the answers, right? So that way it kind of gets them thinking about what would be the right answer, right? And then when they see the answers, is their answer there? Okay, good. If it's not, then okay, that might change the way they're thinking about the question. So I liked waiting. Yeah, I think that maybe helps the student engage more with the question, rather than just seeing all the choices.
Yeah, I think you're activating those retrieval pathways in a different way when you're not providing the pre-populated answers, because they're having to see, like, okay, can I recall what we've talked about, or what I think might be true based on what I know so far, because we maybe haven't covered that yet.
Yeah, absolutely. And the retrieval pathways is a good way to put it. Yeah, I like that. So we're always trying to trying to get students to practice retrieval, right? I mean, the exam, I'm not asking you to read the book. I'm asking you to remember the information, that you learned. So I think this is one of those good methods you can use to kind of trigger that retrieval practice. And also when you design the questions, you can try to keep that in mind. Hey, there's a question that we went over maybe last class or in the beginning of the semester, whenever it was, right? So you can kind of trigger that. You could also use the questions to kind of trigger, prediction, right? Maybe get them interested in what's going to be coming up next, right?
Oh yeah, I love that idea. Yeah, then you're starting to build a framework or a schema for the types of things that they're going to be learning. I'm imagining that you're pretty intentional about making sure the way the questions are presented mirrors what they'll see on the exam. Is that generally true, or?
Absolutely.
Yeah? Okay.
I mean, yeah, especially, these questions, for the most part, I have learning objectives. I want them to be able to perform those, right? And for the most part on the exam, that's what they're going to be tested on. So, yeah, I want to use these questions wisely. I want to make sure that they're going to be seeing stuff like this on future exams. I don't want to waste a question on something that's not going to be tested. So, yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah, that's such a great strategy for lowering exam anxiety, because they're seeing, throughout the course of the semester, the types of questions you're going to ask before they get to the exam. They're getting the chance to quiz themselves and see, well, did I really understand last week's lecture, or do I need to review these points? I'm going to ask one more just practical question, because I'm imagining being in a classroom with 120 students and asking them each to take out 4 index cards. Are you distributing them the first day of class and saying, bring these every time? How does that work?
Yes.
Okay.
So I give them in the beginning of the semester. So here I just we have different colored paper, so I just get a paper cutter and cut it into a bunch of pieces and distribute those out. And then of course some students are going to lose them, which is fine. I bring more, and then hey, if you lost yours, then here are some more. And then I always make a joke about, if you see a hold on your account and you can't graduate, it's because you didn't return the index cards.
Good. I feel like there's also some kind of economic principle that you could tie in there with, I don't know, scarcity or something, but
maybe.
I'll let you think on that.
Yeah.
Okay, so to recap this strategy, what are we calling this strategy? What do you call it when you're thinking about?
The poor man's iClicker is, I don't know, I guess, they still have iClickers.
Yeah, student response systems
Okay.
where you would, so we have like Poll EV. This is the non-digital format of that.
Right.
Okay.
So the good thing about this, as compared to the digital format, I mean, you don't get all the statistics or whatnot, which is fine. But I see who exactly is participating or not. So that part, I kind of like a little more. And so I think this is, the advantage of the index card system.
Yeah. And so I'll tee you up with one more question about that. Like,
Hmm.
just tell us, what do you like about this strategy that you've been using?
Mostly, I could see what students, if they're understanding the material or not. It makes the class more engaging, gives me a second to, not talk so much, listen more. I could see who's participating, I could see who's not. And it gives me the opportunity to kind of, little think, pair, share kind of activities where it's like, okay, this is my answer, this is your answer. Why am I right? Why am I wrong? Students can explain to each other their logic. Maybe they understand the material better from someone, one of their colleagues as opposed to me. So yeah, there's a lot of things I like about it.
Okay,
Yeah.
great. Okay, so just to recap, this is an index card strategy, a student response system where students use different colored index cards to respond to multiple choice questions,
Hmm.
usually. The multiple choice could be yes or no. And then one of the ways that you sort of enhance the rigor of that feedback activity
Hmm.
is not to show them the answers in advance. So they have some time to sit with the question and think about what their answer might be. And then if you see that there's a split in the understanding and like half the class went one direction and half of them went on their own adventure, that provides a further opportunity for some like peer to peer instruction and reinforcement.
Yeah.
This is a super simple strategy. I think anybody could put this into practice and use it. Variations I've seen include like no papers at all, and we're just holding up the number of
Oh,
fingers.
okay. Yeah, that's a good one.
The downside of that, though, I think, is you're not getting, like, it's a little harder for you at the front of a large lecture hall
Yeah.
to get that immediate feedback of, okay, everybody went blue with this one.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, the
So
numbers I can
I like
imagine. Yeah,
I
that's
like
interesting.
the paper option.
And then too, the thing. Okay, well, okay, the numbers is probably a good one because I know some people. Okay, raise your hand if you think this. Raise your hand if you think that, and then like, 50% abstain,
Right.
which is hard to tell. It's like, hey, I'm pretty sure all of you guys didn't
Yeah.
vote, so that I don't like. So, yeah,
Yeah. So we hope you feel inspired to go out and change one thing in your teaching, and we want to hear from you. So please email us at steely@wm.edu. That's STLI@wm.edu if you would like to make an appearance here in Studio 36 or virtually in our virtual podcasting studio.